Hey, Rick Sayes here. Welcome to another episode of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, where I hope to provide entertaining conversations with retailers, brand managers, athletes, executives, and others in the outdoor biz to get their stories, tips, strategies, productivity tricks, and ideas that you can apply and take your career or business to the next level. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. I've used Audible for many years now when I'm on the road, and I'm on the road a lot. Audible helps me pass the downtime while enjoying great books I discover or are recommended by friends. You can get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/theoutdoorbizpodcast. There are over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. I can recommend some if you need them. Hit that link and start your 30-day free trial with Audible today. Hey guys, today's episode is with Jennifer Pringle, VP of Marketing and Communications with the Outdoor Industry Association. She tells us how she got from Texas with no outdoor experience to become a multi-sport outdoor enthusiast. It's a great story. Enjoy. Hey guys, today I'm speaking with Jennifer Pringle, VP of Marketing and Communications at the Outdoor Industry Association. Welcome to the show, Jennifer.
Hi, welcome.
Yeah, good to have you on. So let's start with your first exposure to the outdoors. What was that like?
You know, I was raised by a single mom in Texas.
Okay.
And to be really honest, I didn't do much in the outdoors. Our vacations consisted of going to see grandma, going to fly to see my dad, you know, and as I grew up, I went to the mall on the weekend. So a little bit embarrassing to say, but I moved to San Francisco. I went to University of Texas at Austin. You know, it's hot in Texas too. So it's very hot. You know, it's pretty sweltering. But when I moved to San Francisco pretty much the day after I graduated college and got there and just fell into a group of friends. And honestly, if I back up, I had like a personal awakening in San Francisco. So I wasn't this kid whose dad or mom, you know, my dad was at the state fair. That's about as far outside as we went. So, but, you know, so I just fell into a group of friends, and both politically, I was awakened when I moved to San Francisco, and from an outdoor perspective,
that's cool.
I found my religion, I guess, you know, and it happened on my own, you know, through just experiences. But that experience of 22 to 26, you know, 27 being out there just really shifted how I defined myself or how I saw myself. That's pretty formative
for all of us. Yeah.
Yeah. That time absolutely is. So yeah. So that's awesome. I met a group and they camped and they skied, we mountain biked, we rollerbladed.
Cool.
We just did being outside, getting my heart rate up. It just made me feel good about me and good about my friends, you know, connected with my friends. And
that's great. That's great. And I think everybody, when you go to San Francisco, you get awakened politically one way or another.
Yeah. I have this memory of being in a car. It was the Clinton, Bush election. Okay. Like I moved there during, you know, I moved there August, September. So it was heavy election season. And I was in a car with my aunt and uncle who I just looked up to so much. And they were having this like just rigorous political discussion, and they were more Democratic leaning than my friends in Texas were. So so it was just, and it connected with me and who I am and issues. You know, I was so flooded with very Bible Belt ideas growing up, not by my family by any stretch, but the surroundings.
Yeah, so, just the community.
So it's interesting when you go somewhere and you feel something that you connect to, that, you know, that isn't just put upon you, but it's something you choose to believe in. So that's awesome. So did you get out to the Sierras? Did you get to Yosemite, all that kind of stuff? Went to climbed Half Dome.
Wow, very cool.
Skied Squaw a lot. Definitely many cool experiences. The most interesting thing about what really got me into the outdoors, I had an awesome job opportunity, which pulled me to San Francisco, was working for Levi Strauss. Okay. And it was an amazing, you know, in marketing, and amazing, for a 22-year-old, I got an internship, working in their marketing department.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
And such a great opportunity. But I, you know, as I was kind of going through my career there, learning great things. You know, Levi's is an amazing company, very issues, heart-based. They do things for the right reason. So it was a great foundation for
learning. And they
learning.
have a great history and story, right? I mean, they're like the beginning of time almost, those guys, you know.
back in the 1800s.
Exactly. The gold miners. Yeah. The 49ers.
The gold mine time.
The 49ers. Yeah.
It was a great place to get your career start for sure. And I moved up the chain and grew in my responsibilities, but I kind of got to 25 and I was going through my, what is it? They call it a quarter life crisis. And I was like, what is it all? Why am I, what does it all mean? Am I doing anything with purpose? And so that just kept ringing, like repeating in my head. And for a brand, it's a good brand with heart and soul.
Yeah.
And they live their brand and they've been doing that for a long time. I think they're one of the first belief-based brands.
Yeah.
And now you see a lot of brands that are going in that direction, but I still personally felt like I wasn't doing enough. And somehow I don't even know the trail map where I found Outward Bound, but I found Outward Bound.
Okay, cool.
And I went to the head of the marketing department and I asked for a sabbatical. And at 25, I mean, I don't think the balls that I had to even ask.
Exactly.
I don't know what I was thinking.
You want what? Wait a minute.
At 25, they gave me 3 months off
to
go do train the trainer at Outward Bound.
Awesome.
And I sold it because they really, Outward Bound really does a great job on soft skills and leadership. And so I went to North Carolina Outward Bound
Sweet.
For like 60 days and did a train the trainer program there. And, again, not my childhood or not anything that I brought. It's something that I discovered that was important to me later on in life. But it was such a great kind of pivotal experience for me.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Outward Bound and Knowles, those guys both do great programs, all of them. Yeah. That's kind of where I didn't go to school there, but I studied all the books and I was part of the group that ran the program at Adventure 16, the Outings program. So I have guiding in my background too. It's awesome. Very formative, very opened your eyes to so many different things. It's great.
I agree. I just sent my 14-year-old son to Outward Bound for 2 weeks.
Nice.
It's the year of grit. We're going to get that kid some grit and perseverance.
There you go. Well, he'll come back a changed kid, that's for sure.
I think he's already back. We'll see. He's fallen a little bit back into his social media habits, but hopefully.
They're not going to put that down. You got to let them do that. Yeah.
I know. But it was an amazing experience, and I'll say that I didn't. I didn't end up going to work for Outward Bound.
Had you thought you were gonna?
I thought I thought, well, it was a train the trainer program. So the intention was to take you out. And we actually took they were going through a cool thing in North Carolina where they were bringing inner city schools together with more suburban schools. So part of the curriculum was to bring kids together that were going into middle school, and they would go on these 3-day trips.
Awesome.
And, on Table Mountain out in North Carolina. So,
that's funny. I did a program like that at Palomar Mountain in San Diego. We did it was a 6th grade camp. And we mixed inner city school kids with some of the La Jolla schools a camp for a week, and took them on hikes and taught them birding and pond biology. It was awesome. It's very fun.
Yeah, in Colorado, almost every kid in 5th grade does outdoor ed, but it wasn't the merging of two. Yeah. It's not the merging of the two schools. So that was a cool experience. But when I did come home, I sort of, after talking to a lot of the guides and talking about their lives and
what it's really like. Here's what it's really like.
Maybe how much they got paid. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. But or their ability to go to the dentist, and get things done. Ultimately what I did was I stayed kind of in the sort of career world, corporate world, but I started working with a program to take inner city kids mountain biking in the Bay Area. And so I've done that for years. And then, so that I figured you can still follow your passion and also.
Yeah, exactly.
Grow your career.
That's right. Yeah. You shouldn't be afraid of that. Yeah. I remember some of the best days of my life were as a river guide, but I was some of the poorest days of my life too, but man, it was fun.
So I've lived it on some level, but I didn't go full bore.
Yeah.
I didn't jump in.
That's cool.
Style, yeah.
So tell our listeners a little bit about the Outdoor Industry Association and your role there. You were telling me you guys are more event-based now or
issue-based.
Issue-based, but the website is more
content. It's a content engine.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we're a content engine versus a static website. So we help educate. Well, I'll step back before going into that, but it's the Outdoor Industry Association. I believe many of your listeners know who we are, but I think it's a good to reintroduce.
Yeah, a lot of folks.
Yeah,
a lot of folks that are tight with the guests. They definitely know who you guys are. But there might be some people that are looking to get in the industry that haven't heard of it. Or I've talked to a lot of folks that are, getting more and more concerned about the public land stuff. So they might not know. Yeah.
Well, so the Outdoor Industry Association, and a lot of people call it OIA, our acronym. We are the industry's largest trade organization, and a trade organization can mean different things, to different industries. But for OIA, our three areas of focus we call them our pillars, and one is public policy, and under public policy, that's where we're out there fighting for public lands access. We're fighting, to get for recreation access. So we have a recreation policy practice, and that's where, the cornerstone of our policy practice is the outdoor recreation economy, which we recently launched a new report.
Yep.
And that really gives us influence in a seat at the table, both federally as well as at the state and local level, to influence policy.
And that's really shifted the seat, really, because back in the, when OIA first started and the outdoor industry has been around, they looked at us as like a bunch of tree huggers and what do we know? And now that you guys have put some numbers behind it, you can really have an impact. Whereas before it was just they listened, but.
Yeah, I don't think they saw us like a economic powerhouse or a financially viable industry. They might have seen, the tree hugger or folks who, are their job
those campers and fishermen. What do you guys know?
They love what they get to do. Well, maybe I wish I had their job. They have fun.
Yeah,
but they didn't see it as a true economic powerhouse. So I definitely, that's, like I said, that's why I call it the cornerstone, because that gets us a seat at the table.
Yeah.
That gets us that gets us.
That opens the doors, opens their ears, and sometimes opens their wallet. So yeah.
Yeah, or at least helps them make policy that behooves our industry and the population. So, there under policy, there's also trade policy, and and I think trade policy is how the Outdoor Industry Association got started. Is that there was going to be and this is something that Steve Barker can tell you a lot about. He's deeply involved. But the backpack tax, we were going to be to put a heavy tariff was going to be put on.
Yeah, that was one of the issues. Yeah, right.
Yeah, backpacks, and so the group from the industry came together to really fight the backpack tax, and they won. And so that was sort of the genesis of the organization, how it came together. So there's international trade, and that's tariffs. Looking at most of our products are produced overseas.
Yep.
So we have a trade policy lobbyist in DC that really works to fight for better tariff and trade environments for our products as we bring them overseas. So we can either, pass those savings back on to the consumer or use that money to innovate. But our products are pretty heavily taxed right now. So
yeah, definitely.
So there's trade policy. We also do, help companies with Made in America, help them, understand Made in America rules. And then we're dipping our toe and starting to get into climate change.
Oh, cool.
So that's sort of our policy practice in a nutshell. But I'm being very, very high level with it.
That's cool. That's good. No, that's good. And we'll put links to the website and all that, so people can go in and dig a little deeper if they want.
Yeah,
the show notes will have all kinds of links in it. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. And to that point, we recently created an advocacy center.
Right.
And we've always had information up on our website about our policy agenda or stories about things we're doing, but we now have this actionable place that folks can go to go state by state to understand their outdoor recreation economy information.
Yep.
They can also look at different actions and issues as it relates to recreation.
Right.
And
so they can pick and choose what they want to get involved with if they want.
Yeah, we're raising issues, and then we give information on how to take action, and then there's also links to all your policymakers state by state.
Right.
So and then how to connect with them. So it's a great place if you go to the OIA website to go to our
so check the show notes. We'll have links to that, and get involved, folks.
That is the word, is get involved.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No better time right now. We need everyone.
Exactly.
And then our next pillar is sustainability business innovation. And under that pillar, it really has to do, there's a climate change impact as it relates to sustainability, and the outdoor industry is a leader in sustainable supply chain. So we we have a group called the Sustainability Working Group, and we work with these companies to work on their supply chains from design through end of life.
Mm-hmm.
And we develop, working with our partners, it's a really collaborative process.
Mm-hmm.
But working with our Sustainability Working Group, we develop tools and resources to help to better look at the supply chain and make our supply chains more sustainable. We also, OIA, I don't know the date, but Amy Roberts actually started it, but the Eco Index to help as a tool to help companies evaluate their supply chains. And that tool was purchased by the Sustainable Apparel Coalition and is now called the HIG Index.
Oh,
and so
okay, right.
The HIG Index it was a spreadsheet back in the day, and now it's actually, a tool, an online tool where companies can go and measure their supply chain. So many of our members have adopted the HIG Index, and we work really hard to get more and more companies on board. And we provide a discount to members for the HIG Index to get on so they can measure their supply chains and look at it end to end.
Excellent. Well, we'll link to that too. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. That's great.
So sustainability and so we look at chemicals management and, animal welfare.
Mm-hmm.
We look at, there's many different areas of sustainability, fair labor, those types of things. So it's an interesting place to go to check out if you're interested.
So I'll bet these days with all the things going on with our new administration, you guys just are so busy. It's just like waves on the beach with stuff coming from those guys.
Yeah.
And it impacts all the three areas of what you focus on. It's amazing.
Well, yeah, the third area is participation, and I don't need to go in, but our foundation, Outdoor Foundation, works on getting the next generation of outdoorists passionate and excited to be outside, and that's really important for all our businesses.
Yeah, cool.
To make sure we have consumers in the long run. But yeah, back to the current political environment, I think it's interesting. While it's really rough, and every morning we wake up and there's a different issue that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
We've never had such an engaged group of people before, and that is super interesting. It's super interesting to be in a time where we're all so politically sensitive. We're like, it's like I'm like a political nerve ending, I'm very, and so I think it's been good for us in the sense of our OI's influence and our ability to affect change has never been higher.
Right.
And it in part is because of the political environment we're living in.
Yeah, on some levels, they've done us a favor by they've awoken the sleeping giant, but it's unfortunately it's in a negative way. But you're right, all these groups and everybody's just membership is up and people are talking about it and joining and donating and marching and sitting in and all these things. It's great.
Yeah, we on April 25th we went to the Capitol. We had our biggest group of Capitol Summit attendees ever. There was over 130 executives that were ready to talk to senators and members of Congress about our issues and topics. And we were launching the outdoor recreation economy that day.
Wow.
We had Secretary Zinke with us to help us launch it. And that same day, I'm sitting in, I can't remember which senator's office, and all of a sudden on TV, you see Trump with all of the Utah delegation behind him, signing the executive order, on the monuments review. And, we're honestly, it's an interesting, a bunch of outdoor industry folks
punch to the gut, right?
in suits, staring at this monitor in one of the offices. And, I think the senator was like, "Excuse me, I'm here to meet with you." And we were transfixed on this, but that moment, I really feel like, it happened earlier as we kind of heard word that they were going to try to do some things to around Bears Ears. Yeah. But this was like the moment where you said, one, there's no coincidence that he's doing this executive order the day we all are on Capitol Hill.
Right.
So that right there, your impact and influence. So it's been interesting. It's been so great to collaborate with the brands, and the brands have gotten so engaged on with their consumers, and their consumers have gotten so engaged. So it's been this amazing ripple effect of heightened awareness around the importance of recreation and to our economy and the importance of public lands to everyone's life and this sort of inalienable right that we have as Americans.
Right.
And also for OIA, our focus on and why we believe the monuments are so important is economic. We do
completely,
see it as a healthy, sustainable job producer. And so that's, where you see this argument that jobs are being hurt because of this sort of federal overreach. We have data that shows.
Well, you look at all these gateway communities. I live in Bishop, and you look at, up in Lee Vining and Bishop and all these little Eastern Sierra communities. If it wasn't for the public lands around here and all the people coming through to climb and fish and hike and take photos, these communities would be, a shell of themselves. I mean, there wouldn't be 3,500 people in Bishop. There'd be 1,000. It just wouldn't be here. So, yeah.
And they're healthy, sustainable, and communities that have, recreation is the only thing that defines them, but it definitely is one of the, one of the strong foundations. So, so I think that's the argument that we're trying to make heard.
Yeah. So what are some of the recent success stories that you guys have, anything you'd like to share that's happened in the last, moving the show is a big one for the industry.
It's interesting. I was talking about our 3 pillars and our job, our goal is to work on and make meaningful change and do big work. It's interesting when we get pulled into the trade show debate often. And this one was so clear because it was so linked to public lands and so linked to, the issues.
It was directly linked to the politics.
To the politics of it, for sure. So, it's interesting. I think that I wish that it hadn't happened that way, and maybe we would have gone a little bit more methodical about our work with the governor in Utah, maybe. But I think sometimes you need a fire to spark change, and that's how it happened. So, and I do think that moving to Denver is sort of a new opportunity to redefine the industry a little bit and have new experiences. I think while everyone likes the rhythm of Utah, it's and that you kind of know what to expect. I think it'll be really nice to change it up.
I like it. I think when we moved from Reno to Salt Lake, we got a little bump in enthusiasm and a little bump in excitement, and people were engaged again, and a few folks that hadn't been to the show in a while started coming again. I think the same thing will happen when we go to Denver. I think there's just you get a little complacent. You kind of get into a routine like anything. Your hotels, your restaurants, and the folks you're going to meet with, the appointments and whatnot. I think it's going to be good. It's going to shake things up. Booth, the floor plan will be changed inside the show hall, and that'll wake everybody up. You got to think all of a sudden again. You can't just blindly grab your coffee and go to the show.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think. So for me, it was an interesting experience to go through. We have our profile from the starting back in February when the boycott started, and some brands wanted to say unification. Boycotting isn't the answer; it's unification. Everyone was sort of on the same page.
Yeah.
And I think we would have ended up moving no matter what. So that started a lot of controversy, and from working in marketing communications, that started to get media really interested in our industry. And so it really did raise our...
Well, and that engaged a lot of folks in a different way too. I mean, people, like I say, the complacency is, okay, the show's moving, we'll go this one last time and then we'll move. And all of a sudden, because the reason why we were moving had a little more importance, and I think people kind of woke up and actually thought about changing the show as opposed to just, okay, we're going to move, so.
Yeah. So it's been a challenge. I think it's, I think it's divided. There's a little,
and how quickly it happened. What was Amy telling me it happened in like 17 days or something?
It felt like that, it's like, and, and give Outdoor Retailer, or Emerald Expositions, give them a lot of kudos because making that change is finding a new location in the time we needed to.
Yeah, everybody did.
There's a lot of pieces that need to come together. So they deserve a lot of kudos. But it was political. On the political front, it was also industry. There's a lot of people you have to consult to make a big change like that, before you just, you can't just make it. So, and then, then the logistical side of doing the RFP and finding that. But I will tell you personally, this industry, I've worked a lot of years in the outdoor industry, but I've also been in technology, and I've done, apparel. I've done fashion. I've never been in an industry that is so communal, that is that has such a strong community that can work on an issue.
It's a huge tribe. It's like a huge tribe, and it's
really, and it's something to be celebrated and not taken lightly. Because what I think is so interesting is that we compete and we collaborate.
Right.
And on issues like public lands, we'll put our competition aside and we will collaborate because we know a stronger voice is going to be a louder voice, is going to be a more effective voice. And that is unlike anywhere I've been, especially when you're in technology, everything is secret and private and
cutthroat,
and cutthroat. And so it's amazing. And it's something that we should take very seriously.
I agree.
But to this point, when we started talking about the last show in Utah, like how are we going to thank the city of Utah because the city of Salt Lake, because 20 plus years is a lot of years to have relationships. And
it's been great. I mean, that city went through a significant transformation in those 20 years. When we first went, it was tiny. The hall was tiny. We ran out of rental cars. Restaurants were super crowded. No cabs, and they have grown with us significantly, and they've been a great host. Yeah.
I we stay at the Marriott every time we go, and I was upstairs, and a woman that works there was crying and hugged me. I mean, so they feel there's a lot of you hear bittersweet a lot. So, but it's really the risk of a big change like that could be it could affect this communal, strong community that we have. And so when we were and then how do we send a message? And so the idea of the Public Lands March,
that was great,
came to be, and we worked with Outdoor Alliance, and we worked with the Conservation Alliance.
Right.
And, there was some concern that maybe people were going to think it was a protest, or politically they would see us as a bunch of lefties protesting, fighting, and or there could be counter protests, or it could be, but I tell when we said this isn't about media, this isn't about protesting, it's about celebrating public lands, but what it's really about is uniting the industry and having this experience, this memory, this experience that we have. That to me, while I led it with a bullhorn. I had bullhorns in the front.
You're up front. I was in about the middle and the back. I was trying to run up back and forth, take pictures and run back. And
I was in a bright yellow shirt with a bullhorn.
Nice.
Me and my colleague Rich Harper, and I made chants up, and I was
nice.
So it was, and my career, and I will tell you, life to me, life is long.
Yeah.
People talk about life being short, and in some instances it is, but I see careers as life is long, and what you should be doing is finding different opportunities to take left turns and right turns and do new things. And I don't think I ever thought I'd be leading a march of 3,000 people.
Yeah.
And it was invigorating and definitely a career high.
That was awesome.
Definitely.
Well, you guys did a great job too. The message was awesome, and I somehow ended up right in the front with the media during all the speeches, and that was a great spot to be, just to see the passion on those speakers' faces, each one that got up and told their story. It was amazing. You guys did a great job.
Weren't they great?
The thanking of Utah and the celebration of public lands, it was really well done.
Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad
Kudos
you enjoyed
to you
it.
Guys.
Yeah. I loved the Blake Spalding story.
Yeah.
Of her restaurant outside of
it was
Grand
awesome.
Staircase.
Yeah.
It was great. Yeah.
So I spoke with Katie Bouet recently about the Outdoor Advocate Network. That sounds pretty exciting. What can you tell us about that?
I'm not the one on my organization and that's directly responsible for it. There's two women, Jen Brunson and Amanda Marker, but I do know a lot about it, and I've spent a lot of time with them on it. I think the key to any advocacy work you're doing is amplification and spreading the word, and so it's not new to use influencers. We've heard recently they don't want to be called influencers, they want to be called advocates, because what we're asking them to do is very purposeful. It's not just talk about this. Can you tell us about this new product that you're doing? We're asking them to advocate, to really put their personality and their face.
Step up for the issue, not just hawk the product like they
want to be advocates. We're working with right now we're in the process of kind of finding our audience and finding our advocates. We at the OR show, we had a breakfast or a lunch where we brought all folks in, as we see brands get more on board with using their brand power
Yep.
to make change and to take on issues and not, and be values based. Their social media folks also are using their bullhorn to talk about their brand's values. So we brought a lot of brand social media folks in. We also have, we're working with other, people that have made social media their business, and so I just think that you got to amplify, you got to get the word out, and it's great. It's great when someone else is talking about your issues and you are always pumping your issues. It's like that third party recommendation, that third party validation. So we're trying to get far and wide, and in certain cases, we're talking right now, we're working with outdoor industry advocates, but we're also going to go broader because we're trying to impact policymakers. So
that's great.
We're going to go to other, advocate networks who have even maybe broader audiences, so we can start to work with them. But It is issue based, and when you think about communications, I mean, one, the world is changing so fast. It used to be you could put a press release out and someone would pick it up and write about it, and it doesn't work that way. It's a two-way communication. The consumer is part of the conversation, and so you really, communications has shifted and changed, and I always talk about the importance of integrated communications. You got to hit people in many different ways. Sometimes you can still buy traditional advertising. Sometimes you can just use a press release, but you can never use them independently. You got to
It's a multi-pronged approach, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. And so this is just, one of our prongs, but it's the other side of the advocate networkers. These are human beings who care about an issue.
Right.
It's so strong when it's an individual.
Yeah, that'll be huge. Yeah. So let's go in a little different direction here. Who are a couple of your mentors?
I would say my mentors, I have had, teachers early on in my career, and I can't even remember his name, but he was a history teacher in 10th grade who taught me how to have a voice. Cool. Early on that was some, but in my career, the person who I always talk about most is Pamela Eel, and she was a boss of mine in my late 20s, and she and I, went from one job to, she pulled me to Seattle, and I followed her to a job, and she is she's a spitfire and so smart, and
cool.
She's a risk taker, and I wasn't always, and now she just told me that if you know what you're trying to do, then you can take risks and step out of your comfort zone. But she also is interesting. She also said, do what people don't expect you to do. And so you stand out, and I'm blonde. And she always says, use your blonde. People don't expect much of you, but when you open your mouth, you'll get 2 times the influence because people, and she's not that this matters in any way, but she's like, I am a short Black woman. People don't expect anything of me. And then I open my mouth, or I do something unexpected, or I use my charisma, and the influence that I have. So she's like,
it's great.
Be unexpected, take risks, and use your person, to gain,
that's awesome.
more leverage.
Great. So that's good. Yeah. Cool. And
I also will say, and I'm not kissing ass, I promise, but Amy Roberts
she's great.
She's a great, and she is an amazing listener.
Yeah.
She doesn't spend a lot of time talking. She's an amazing listener, and she is calm in the midst of a storm.
Right. Yeah,
and she handles controversy by listening, staying calm, reacting intelligently. She's great to watch. And she's also very real and very easy to talk to. And
she's done a great
job.
I'm fortunate to know her. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So as a professional marketer, do you have any actionable marketing tips our listeners can put into action, or communication tips?
I could go on and on about that.
Or one significant one that you suggest everybody employs?
I think it's really important. 2 things I'm going to say is stay connected to business objectives, so you don't, I think marketing is, it's part of the business, but often a business will have business objectives, and you need to make sure that marketing is clearly linked to them.
Right.
If it stays clearly linked to them, you will still get funding, and money is critical to your ability do good marketing and to move the business forward. So stay connected to the core business objectives.
Yeah, that's good.
And then understanding your audience, and making sure you're pinpoint specific on who you're trying to reach, and listen to them and do research on them.
That's a good one.
Really,
I like that
so understand your audience. And then when you do your marketing plan, make it integrated. Make sure you're hitting your audience at many different angles. So, it's all about how many times you can reach them and how often. Right. So reach and frequency. And so you got to get them in different ways. So integrated.
Right. Good. That's awesome. Excellent. And what outdoor activities do you still participate in?
I'm a big runner. I hike. I love to hike and bike, mountain bike, and I'm a snowboarder, and I want to get more into the backcountry.
Oh, okay. So. Oh, cool. Awesome. Have you been in the backcountry on your board?
I have.
Yeah, very fun. Yeah.
I need to do an Abby class, and
right.
And I'm annoying because I have to take my board apart and put it back together, and the transitions are really hard.
Yeah.
So, but that's my goal. I'm kind of the resort. I don't like a chairlift, but
yeah.
So
cool.
I
That's good.
Do that more. Yeah.
Great. And how about some favorite books? Do you have any favorite books, or do you give books as gifts?
I like historical fiction, or nonfiction. Those I really like to learn about the world through storytelling. My favorite book is Kite Runner, and
that's a great book. Yeah,
it's a story about when the Soviet, it's a story about Afghanistan and telling the story of when the Soviet Union intervened through two boys.
Right.
So it's a great story that kind of gets you to sort of the caste systems and to help you understand Afghanistan. It tells you kind of what happened and folks who fled. And so I really like that. I'm currently reading one called a nonfiction called Just Mercy. That's about a lawyer who's fighting to get inmates off of death row. And that's
cool.
True story. So I love that. And from an outdoor standpoint, in the last couple of years, my son and I read a book. And again, it's another nonfiction book, but Mountain Vision by Jeff Evans, he was the mountain guide who worked with Eric. I can't pronounce his last name, but like Weinheimer, who the blind climber who summited Everest, but he works with veterans. So it's an interesting book.
Cool.
That,
awesome.
About leadership and outdoor.
Yeah. We'll
guiding.
put those in the show notes too. Link to those. Yeah. Those are good. Kite Runner was great. I love
Kite Runner. Yeah.
Exactly. And do you have a favorite outdoor gear purchase under $100?
I would say Brooks running shoes.
Okay.
I also think a good day pack is critical.
Yeah, gotta have that.
So
right.
Osprey Porter would be my day backpack.
Okay, cool. We'll link to those. That's awesome. And what tools do you use to stay motivated, productive, or sane? Like journaling or meditation or any podcast you listen to?
That's so funny. Running is what keeps
me
sane.
Good. Yeah,
I
exercise. That's awesome. Yeah.
With women, and if I, for me, it's just an outlet. And I wrote podcasts, and this morning, as I went on a run before going to work, and I listened to the Al Gore podcast about his new book.
Cool.
So
yeah, good one.
Yeah. So
yeah, I'll link to that one. Cool. And any suggestions or advice for folks wanting to get in the outdoor biz?
I only can talk about my own experience that I take internships really seriously, and it was, I remember the day when I graduated, I had 2 job opportunities. I had one as a full-time job in Austin to work for this kind of cool tech startup, and then I had an internship in San Francisco. And I took the job first, and I had this one night I woke up because I wanted a job. I'd already had internships.
Right.
I wanted a job, and so I woke up and I was sweating, and I said, what am I doing? I need to go do something exciting in my life. I need to move out of Texas. So I ended up taking the internship at Levi's, and it was transformative, and it opened up my world into other opportunities. So sometimes you don't always have to be moving up. You can take, you don't always have to, it's not always about the job. It's about the experience. And so this internship gave me the experience. And
that's awesome.
So
that's good advice. Sometimes lateral moves or even a step back to take 2 steps forward are a good idea. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. Anything else you want to say to our audience or ask of our audience?
I want to ask the audience to get engaged and get involved. And if you care about something, be it the outdoors or about child advocacy, whatever it is, but make your life more full by getting engaged and making a difference. And there's no better time than now. And we would love you to get engaged in the work of OIA. So, and all the work we do around outdoor recreation or sustainability and climate change. There's so many opportunities to get involved.
And be sure to check the show notes on all these, because there's been so many people that we've had on the podcast, from Conservation Alliance to Amy at the OIA, and link to all your websites. You guys have great resources and ways to get engaged. So check those out and go get engaged. We need all the help we can get. Every man on deck right now, man and woman on deck.
We need
all hands on deck.
All hands on deck for sure.
Yeah.
So
cool.
One thing I also wanted to ask the audience, we, earlier this year, we launched a campaign called, it's not even a campaign. We relaunched OIA's brand.
Mm-hmm.
We used to, our focus, we used to be ensure the health and success of the outdoor industry, or the success. And it's this big, huge mission.
Right.
And it's, I can't quite say that's achievable, but it spread our interest really wide. And so some member might want us to do a research project on Amazon. Another one might have wanted us to do something. And so we would follow many of those leads, and you can't be as effective. So we shifted towards our pillars, which I talked about earlier, sustainability, policy, and participation. Well, we also relooked at OIA's, brand and value. And we went and talked to our members, and we went and talked to stakeholders about what they wanted OIA to do. And that's where we landed on that. But what kind of came out is this: OIA serves this role of convening. We bring the industry together.
Yep.
Whether, there's outdoor retailer that brings people together, but like I talked about, the sustainability working group, we bring people together to do good work.
Right. Outdoor retailer brings people together at the show twice a year, but you guys bring people together in a bunch of different areas to work on different issues and things that impact the outdoor industry and the outdoor participants as well. All of us.
Absolutely. So we're thinking of these big issues. And so this idea of collaboration, and then, you think about our industry, which is so collaborative and so tribal, like you said,
right.
So we created, an outshoot of this is this campaign called Together We're a Force.
Mm-hmm.
And Together We're a Force. It's our tagline too. It's what we use to talk about outdoor industry association. But we have this campaign where we feature, people who are working together for, to do good work. And it's usually falling in one of our pillars. But, for example, we have Conrad Anchor with 2 women at Sherpa Adventure Gear. And they talk about their work for Nepal and, on behalf of Nepal, and Sherpa employs Nepalese in their factories, and Conrad does all the work at the Kumbh Climbing School. So there is this great story of, Together We're a Force for Nepal.
Right.
We have other stories. There's a story of John Sterling, Alex Boyan from our organization, and Adam Kramer of Outdoor Alliance, and together they're a force for public lands.
Right.
We have a story of Luis, who heads up the outdoor recreation office in Denver, and
Luis Benitez.
Luis Benitez, and Annalise, who is the CEO of Icelandic, and she works on his advisory board. So it's these great stories, excuse me, these great stories of people who are working together. Sometimes they're competing and collaborating, and we bring them to life through this great campaign and a lot of digital assets and stories and videos. And so my request for the audience is, if you have a great story that shows collaboration to do really important work to move our industry forward, I want to hear about it. So I would love to get an email from folks. And I also encourage you to go onto our website and look at all the other stories. We have about 40 of them.
Excellent.
So we want to tell the stories of the outdoor industry.
I've got a couple folks I'll connect you with locally here in Bishop that are doing some cool things. So yeah.
That would be great.
Great. Awesome. And where's the best place for people to find you?
You can find me in many different ways. My email is jpringle@outdoorindustry.org.
Cool.
You can find me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
You can call us at Outdoor Industry Association. They'll connect you to me. So
cool.
A lot of ways to find me.
Awesome. We'll put links to all that in the show notes, and everybody can find you guys. Well, thanks for the time. I appreciate it. It's been great.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and we'll talk soon, if not in Denver for sure.
All right. It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Thanks. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Jennifer Pringle. You can connect with Jennifer via email at jpringle@outdoorindustry.org, on LinkedIn, or call the Outdoor Industry Association and they'll connect you. Pringle is spelled Pringle. You'll find links to all the info we discussed in the show notes at theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/episodes/036. I appreciate the support and feedback. Please be sure and share your favorite episodes on the socials. And until next time, thank you so much for listening. If you want more of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, you can subscribe on iTunes and Stitcher, or go to theoutdoorbizpodcast.com, where you find all the episodes, show notes, and much, much more. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at The Outdoor Biz Podcast, Twitter at Rick_Saez, that's S-A-E-Z, and my email is rick@theoutdoorbizpodcast.com. Thanks for listening and all the support, and a huge shout out to all my guests, and until next time, be sure to make time to get outside.